Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DETAUX Designers Talk UX. So, Roy Bennett once said that only when you step out of your comfort zone, that's when you begin to change, transform, and grow. Today, we have Vignesh with us, who is an IT backbencher, and he doodled his way out to become the Associate Design Director at Value Labs, and he's here to share his story with us. Hey Vignesh, and welcome to DETAUX. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here. I think it's really interesting to be part of this whole thing, what you guys are doing.
It's a pleasure. And then we got to know about your story and how you transitioned from being a computer engineer to UX designer, right? So we really wanted to get this story out there for people to know. There's so many people in IT who would want to transform their careers, and they have a lot of questions who that usually come across, wherein they would want to see how do I transition from IT to a more creative career, which is UX design or maybe design in general. So please go ahead and tell us how was your journey?
Right. Sure. So little of my piece is like I'm very curious on whatever I do. Little bit of experimentation. Where whatever I do, I try to be try new things all the time. So my story goes back to my engineering days, where every other parent, right, wants their kid to be an engineer those days. There's only two options: either doctor or engineer.
Right.
They don't know how it is going to help, but certainly they wanted to get into engineering and doctor. And they also didn't realize how they actually want their kid to be more specific on things what they actually want to do, right? So, and I was also kind of a victim of that. I took up engineering and those days where we were not also having much of exposure on different aspects of education. It is mostly these two pieces. So we are also brought up with this fear of failure, right? Now, engineering, doctoral, everyone are going ahead with that. So it seems to be a very safe option. We don't want to be worried about that. That's how the mindset was. And it also showcased some kind of money with that degree, if you're having that degree. So those were actually influencing a lot of the people to get into that. So I joined engineering, and but I was not very good at it. I was okay with engineering, but I've been drawing freehand drawing since my childhood days. But after joining engineering, I kind of shifted that into more conceptualized art, where I tried to bring in some kind of concept into whatever I was doing it. So for example, I used to pick up all these small elements in the classroom, right? Be it fan, pencil, table, and you draw it very small, tiniest of the icon, and very close by each other, and that itself will form one figure, right? So that's what I used to do most of the time, sitting in the back bench. When the lectures were going on.
I think all designers are very backbenchers.
Yeah, kind of. So that kind of made me the go-to guy in the college. Anything, any design needed, then they'll come to me and say okay, we have this, do this for me. So that's when I decided, saying okay, I should probably focus more on that, and I took up some design course along with my engineering.
Okay.
So that was pretty long back, and we didn't have much options. It is more learning tools with digital tools Photoshop, Illustrator, audio editing, Premiere, whatever those days had it, the Adobe suite of it.
So you learned it from a private organization?
Yeah. Okay. So right. So that's that. I think over a period of time after I learned that, I think there is this third year or fourth year, I made a decision that okay, this is what I have to be doing in my career, and not certainly an engineering or an IT job, right? And when I graduated from engineering, my first job was with a company called Laserwoods. It is owned by a bigger market leader at the time, and even now in South India is the Murugappa Group, the
Okay.
Parry. They have Parry's and different other company. So Laserwoods is someone who does e-publishing. So
Oh,
basically, any of your medical books or any technical related books, we guys used to make it print ready and hand it over to them. So we are dealing with Pearson's, McGraw-Hill, Macmillan, those kind of publishers, right? So for me, the role was more. These were defined templates, and you have only very limited freedom to go out and try something new. So it is more majorly cut and paste or follow the instruction stuff. So I was not comfortable after like 2-3 months. I went back and told my manager, I said like, no, you just join. You can't just leave like that. So somehow I was sticking there for another 3 months. After 6 months, I moved out. And I was very fascinated about ad agencies, because that's where you create or you come up with new ideas for every other ad they are releasing. When I say ad agency, I was more interested toward the print side of it. So I was working towards that, making my sample ads, printing it out, keeping it in my like portfolio types. Wherever I go, I try to give it instead of just giving out a pen drive. I used to give it out as a leaflet, as a booklet. Yeah.
Nice.
But during that phase, I got introduced to the next company where I actually worked, which is an educational tech side of it. They were a startup based out of Hyderabad called Next Education. So I didn't want to go I was based out of Chennai, right?
Okay.
So this was in Hyderabad, and I
Right.
was playing league level crickets there, and was coaching kids
Wow.
cricket as well. And of course, at the comfort of my home, and then having this, why do anyone wants to leave, right?
Right.
So, but somehow the director came in. He came all the way to Chennai, and then he met me. He said, "We'll form a cricket team there. You'll be the captain." And in fact, the welcome mail for me was like, okay, from the HR, he was just adding the HR and then saying like, "Hey, our cricket team captain is coming. Make sure his accommodations all are addressed."
Nice.
Right? So I can't reject.
Attract talent.
Absolutely. He's still now a very good friend right now. So he's like now a very good leader from a an organized business perspective. He's very good at it. So we started, I think around like 2008 or so. I went to Hyderabad. That's the first time I'm stepping out of my city actually, as for where I'm going to live alone. My parents are all in Chennai. So when I moved there, the company was around like 30 odd members along with me. And what they do is basically a digital classroom. They provide digital content to schools catered across India. So we had a team of multiple skill set. So that was a very big experience for me to interact with different skill set, and understand how they see the product and what is their role in that product, right?
And what was your role in this organization?
So I was an integrator. So we had animators, we had artists, background artists, we had character artists, and we had sound editors. Everyone was there. So all these content will be put together by a person who is basically who plays the integrator role. So,
was it a design role?
It was a
Did
design.
it include any?
It was to some extent design, because you actually collaborate with all those folks and try to, because you're going to be the owner of that specific video. You need to define the tone of it and making sure that it is conveying the subject. At the same time, it is pleasant to watch as well.
Right.
So you play that balanced role with support from other teams. So from there, I moved on to. So I've been with the product company for a long time, and I thought I need to try to get some exposure on different products across the globe. So I decided to move on, and I joined Value Labs as a UX manager, or primarily an individual contributor from a UX perspective. I was part of a couple of projects, majorly on travel based companies,
Okay.
like based out of UK and Germany, and they gave again a new perspective of addressing the needs, like you understand the business of travel there, right?
Right.
So education was different, and now travel again. Very interesting things you learn when you're actually doing knowing the business there, because all we don't know is like now we used to sit with the early days. I'm saying like we used to go to this travel company, and then we want to book a flight from
Right.
Chennai to Bombay, and they will just do it on some black screen.
Right.
We don't know what it is.
Right.
So I understood what is that, how things work globally, how people are able to book tickets,
Right. Anyway,
different agents,
Yeah.
right? So those kind of insights you get to know that.
And you mentioned that you were 10 years in a single organization, which is not really common these days, right? And then you said you joined as an integrator and then went on to become a UX manager at the end of the day, right? And so, how did you discover UX? I mean, I understand that you mentioned that it was design that we were doing, right? It was problem solving that we were doing for all the way along.
Right.
But then, how did you discover that what I am doing is user experience design? And then you mentioned that, okay, we set up the design team. So, how did the discovery happen?
Right.
For you?
So after I've been moved into this creative role where we are doing this website and print media at that time, where a lot of online stuff we were like working on, like websites and small applications. The website to be responsive, and then later we had a B2C product launching, and that required a dedicated application, a mobile application. So again, there was a question whether should we go hybrid, native.
Right.
Those days, where we are juggling between those two
Right.
things. So that's when I try to explore more. I try to learn how things work from a development perspective as well. Why are they discussing about should we go hybrid or native? Again, you try to understand the other pieces of it, and in that process, I joined HFI. The Human Factors International, where I did a course there for mobile specifically.
Oh.
And then later on realized that, okay, these are things which we were doing it, but we didn't know that it is basically ethnographic research.
Right.
We didn't know that this is actually interaction design.
Right.
We didn't know that it is visual design. We were actually doing it, everything. We were doing it on a different levels and different manner.
Right.
Okay, so then this is what we are actually doing it. So why don't we just get something, learn it from the experts, because
Right.
we did do something similar, but we just can't claim that we are good at it unless we
know what we're doing.
correct,
Really, right?
and someone
Sometimes you need to communicate also maybe you're doing that, but you don't know what exactly are you calling it. And
Correct.
once you know what you're calling it, the communication also becomes better.
and it's
the
easy to convince the
Right.
clients or the other stakeholders.
Right.
So instead of saying like, no, hey, we're using this green color here, we're saying like, no, our brand color is this, and green has this effect on person, hence we are using it, right? So we are trying to put a proper justification, proper wordings to it, so others can understand, okay, there is a science behind this design.
Right.
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 So-
to be able to communicate your design decisions, I think that's also becomes. This is also something that I realized really later on, because I would also be someone who's always applying things and trying to do things and then learning from it.
Right.
But then you have to go back to understanding the theoretical aspects of it also sometimes, just
Right.
to be able to communicate effectively.
Right.
And whenever you're working in a team, especially, I think that
Yeah,
becomes
and-
even more important,
Correct.
because there would be so many opinions to have,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
only what is science is what would finally work. Right?
Imagine in a service-based company, right? Now your clients somewhere
Stakeholders.
sitting in UK and or your London or US somewhere, and then they have their own perspective of it. Why they have to use that? We need to convince them again, not just randomly convincing it, right? We need to put facts in front of them,
Right.
why we are doing this.
Right.
So along with that, so going back to that story where I did this mobile course, and later I did the proper usability certification as well there.
Right.
So they call it a CUA piece there. So that opened up a lot of insights on design for me. I think that's kind of a shift happened for me, where I got more confident on what I'm doing instead of just believing that okay, I do design, but I was more confident that okay, this is what I'm doing it, and this is why I'm doing this. This is why my decisions are like this, and it was synchronizing with other UX designers who are also following a similar pattern or similar was giving a similar justification. So I was only gaining more confident with doing that course there. So
That's very interesting as well. Like, it brings in more confidence in
Yeah.
terms of what you were doing.
because when as a designer you need to have that confidence. I think there is one small story as well, if time permits, right? So I used to be an introvert, and I think I am, but depends on situation. And it's not that introvert is bad. It is okay to be an introvert. So I wanted to break that because I don't go and mingle or talk to people directly. So I wanted to come out of that comfort zone. So I think coming out from Chennai to Hyderabad, I think that's one first thing which I did, where I came out of. I think no one does anything if they are in the home with respect to say paying bills or worrying about the money which is coming and going,
Right.
or the food. You don't worry about that much, right? So when you go out, you have to take care of everything,
Right.
along with your work,
Right.
So you learn a lot. That's why you do that. So I wanted to break. Now that was not enough. Just coming to Hyderabad, I kind of again settled there. So I was coming into this comfort zone. So what I did is there was one course in called creative problem solving. Okay, so that's basically there is a set of activities which is called do something different. Okay, that's the activity title, and they have different variants within that. So like now you have to eat something different, wear something different, eat something. You can eat something different, or the way you eat should be different. The idea is you should not do something which everyone does it.
Right.
So if everyone is eating with hands, you can eat with legs. That is different.
Yeah.
It
Out
might
of the
not make
box.
sense, but you need to do that. So I took up that piece. So for wear something different, I wore this office boy's uniform, and I went to office, and the whole day I was with a uniform. So whenever I used to go to this dry pantry and get my cup of hot water or something, they'll say, "Hey, Chotu, clean this mess," and stuff like that. So when people would, when I look at them, then they say, "Okay, this is you." Because
Right.
since I was there in the initial days, so I almost know everyone who is in the company.
Right.
So that was again, you'll never put yourself in that situation, right? And the other thing is eat something different. So I traveled to I think Andhra Pradesh, and two things I did. One is in the agricultural field, I cleared the land. I made a small bowl type within there. From the ground, put food there and ate on that, sitting on the agricultural field, raw, without any leaf, no plates, nothing, right on the ground. Again, very interesting because all the farmers there are looking very strangely at me and then saying, like, did he commit any sin and he's doing some, rituals to get it off. And usually they do that. No?
Okay.
So that was one strange story then. And I went to a fish market. That's the first time I actually went to a fish market, and I had a full meals right in along the storekeepers there.
Oh, okay.
So those folks were like bringing in live fishes and putting it on near me, and that was again a very strange experience. To imagine the atmosphere, the smell, and so that kind of broke the belief that okay, I can do only certain things.
Right.
That helped me to move forward and helped me to gain some confidence within me. So like that, small activities where you try to break your normal stuff.
Right.
It could be as simple as your taste. You're usually, if you're like liking pasta, you'll continue to have pasta.
Have that.
And if you try to hate something you don't like, say bitter gourd, and you will say, okay, I don't like bitter gourd, you'll never taste it, right? But once in a while I'll try something which I hate, right? So bitter gourd is something which I don't like it before.
Same.
Now I love it. Pasta is something which I don't eat much. Now I have it more often thanks to my wife. So few things we need to break your normal behavior and then try to step out and see how it feels. You will actually feel good because you are stepping out of your comfort zone and trying to be comfort there, right? It's like that, expressing your design ideas. You might feel bad. Okay, is this design good?
Right.
Am I doing it right? So it's better I might not show it's actually bad. Let me just put it under the carpet. Right? Instead, you go out and say, this is my idea. You get a critic. Someone is saying it is bad. Good, take it because that's how you learn it.
Right.
But try to understand why it is bad.
Right.
Constructive feedbacks is very important. When you are giving feedbacks.
Right.
Otherwise, everyone can give feedback.
True. People have opinions. And
yeah,
then they will have feedbacks.
Yeah. So you need to understand why. Again, ask why it is. Sometimes they will actually like it, but they'll just say like, well, I don't like it. When you try to answer why you don't like it, because of this. No, this is done because this is our audience. Oh, okay, then it is fine. It's perfect.
Right.
So this is something which you didn't probably say it before. So you
Right.
learned something there.
Right.
Okay, when you present next time, you need to tell who are we catering to.
Right.
So these UIs which pop up in LinkedIn's and stuff, right?
Right.
Where they say like, oh, this or that.
Right.
How can I decide? Okay, and they redesign WhatsApp or Wikipedia, whatever it is. They try to redesign it.
Right.
How do you redesign it?
Right.
And without understanding
Knowing
who
your
you are actually,
audience and their needs and
right? So that's again like we can just practice it and say that, okay, from my visual design perspective, is it any good, or how am my spacings are there?
right.
But as a product, you cannot do something and learn something out of it.
Right. Okay. So last thing that we have in mind. Okay. So you talked about a lot of qualities, and then you saw that transformation in yourself as well, right? As you progressed in your career as a designer. So what do you think are the qualities that someone should have to become a good designer? That maybe you figured out during your course of time as growing in your career in design. But what are the good things or good qualities that a designer should have?
I think the first thing is to listen,
To listen. Yeah.
because that's when you're gonna, with that information, you're gonna make a decision. You're gonna decide whether to put red or blue there. How you're gonna decide whether to red or blue? It depends on the business. You're listening to your clients, who is using it. You're listening to your users. So that is something which you need to, not just as a designer, but generally also it's going to help you very much when you listen to people.
Right.
And
Yeah. So you talked about being curious.
yeah,
Right.
you need to learn. You need to open to learn something,
Right.
because a lot of designers where I interact recently is like they restrict to an individual vertical, the T
Right.
format,
Right.
where they pick one and then they go deep. That is good. Specialization is really good, but you need to know, at least you should know how others work
Right.
and what might be the challenge the others are facing. Not with respect to design. Within design, we have so much of it, right? So when you are an interaction designer, you hand it over to a visual designer, right? When in the visual designer part, they need to understand how this is going to be used, right? So you need to understand from their side as well that you just can't give random piece and then ask them to make it beautifying, right? So you need to understand certain aspect of it. When it goes to development, components, developing a component, how possible it is to do it, and with respect to time as well, not just developing it. See, everyone can do everything when we have time.
Right.
Great pieces we can make in time, right? But we need to deliver within time. So that is important. Listening, trying to be curious, trying to know different aspects other than design. That will also give you another perspective to make decisions. Yeah. That's basically when you start trying to be curious, you automatically will try to move out of your comfort zone, right? So when you know something is curious for you, you will make yourself to go there and learn that, right? So you'll be more proactive on learning that. So the rule of 3 is good. It is 1 is 2 less 2 is more, but 3 is good.
Awesome, Vignesh. Thank you so much for coming here and then sharing your thoughts and talking about your journey from X to UX. And there would be so many people who would want to who are going through the same kind of thought process, who are introverts, who are not curious enough, or just trying to figure out what they want to do in their lives, and maybe their parents are not supportive enough. So I think this gives out a good loud message to them in terms of how you believed in yourself and made it through by yourself, right? Learning by yourself and always being curious and be able to grow in your career as an associate director in design at Value Labs. So congratulations, and then it was lovely talking to you. Okay guys, that's it for today. I hope you liked his story. If you have more questions for Vignesh, please put them in the comments down below. If you'd like to see more videos, please consider subscribing. See you until later. Bye-bye.